time. Welcome to Gear Wizard TV. Fuck it, let's live.
Right up indeed. Because tonight we're going to talk about J-Men Forever. The stoner cult classic, or is it really a cult classic? I don't know. Do you know what it is? Have you ever seen it? Chat along with us if you have. But before we talk about anything else, I got to bring on my sidekick, shall we call him today? My little buddy, JD.
Thank you for having me, Mick. Always a pleasure to be here. As always, first question on my mind is what are we smoking tonight?
We're getting our camera all jiggered up is what we're doing.
I thought, yeah, no, it was a cool little. I didn't know what we were doing there.
I don't know what happened to it. What are we smoking tonight? This is another new one. I haven't even tried it yet. We were up in Stowe, Vermont, which is up in what we might call the resort area. In fact, we were visiting the Von Trapp Lodge. Does that ring any bells?
The Von Trapps from the Hills, the Sound of Music.
The Sound of Music, indeed, yes. So a lot of people don't know. I didn't know this when we moved up here, but after the Von Trapps escaped Austria and went to Switzerland, they somehow wound up in Vermont.
Well, Vermont is like probably the closest thing to home, maybe.
And what the hell? Let's open up a lodge.
Yeah.
So they opened up a big lodge, which is still going today, is bigger than ever. And I think one of the grandkids maybe owns it. One of the children is actually still alive. At least I don't know. It's not my thing. I'm not a Sound of Music fan.
When they first opened the lodge, did all of the kids come down the stairs, in order?
I hope so.
And sing good night to everybody. Even if you're not a Sound of Music fan, I'm sure you know that little
Good night.
moment. Yes.
I
I was
So
a
long,
Sound of Music fan as a
farewell,
kid.
auf Wiedersehen, saying goodbye.
Adieu, adieu to
You and you and you. I remember that. My mom used to make me watch that
right.
every year,
Exactly.
like that little goat herd song. Lady o lay hee hoo. But anyway, yeah, we went up there. We took the in-laws, and I made them. I'm like, I don't care what you people want to do. I didn't want to go here. We're stopping at a dispensary because that's what I do when I travel. And I didn't know any of the growers, so I talked to the guy for a few minutes. He was new to Vermont, uh, but we were both from Colorado, so that was fun. But he recommended this. It's from a grower named Mr. Tree, and I really like the name Mr. Tree, and it's called Bread and Butter.
Oh, I like
Bread and
toasted jam.
butter. I like toast and jam. And it smelled a little bit like dirty socks, which I kind of like.
Do you?
Yeah, that good stinky weed. I like the,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
cheesy weed, the stinky weed, skunky weed. And so this is a first smoke. I saved it up for tonight.
Nice. Well, I
And
hope it tastes less like dirty socks and more like bread and butter.
and we're using one of my many octopus pipes. We have a neat little octopus on this one. I know it's hard to see in the dark some of the other color stuff that's in the pipe.
That is an octopus.
But I got this at a Ren Fair because I like to buy pipes at Ren Fairs. You don't get pipes at Ren Fairs up here. At least I haven't found any.
Nothing says Ren Fair like an octopus pipe, I guess.
Indeed. and I have to get an octopus pipe because I have tentacles on my arm.
Are you part octopus?
No, but I have an affinity for Cthulhu.
Long may he rest, or whatever we say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cthulhu Fatagan. I'm not going to give you the whole speech. Don't worry.
I was bracing for it. What is the name of the city in which he slumbers?
Relia.
Goliath.
Or at least that's how I pronounce it. It's a weird name, and you only ever read it. You hardly ever hear people say it.
Yeah, I think in
So,
my head it was Rilyath,
Real, yeah, that
but
works too.
Reliath also works.
Relia, Relia. I'm not good at. I always pronounce things wrong when I read them.
Oh, same. I thought I was not on the Harry Potter train, but I have seen all the movies once, and before I saw the movies, I read the first book, and from the time that I read the first book until whenever I saw the movie, I thought that the girl that went to the school with them, I thought her name was Hermione.
Hermy
Not
one.
Yep,
I,
not
I
Hermione.
like it.
Hermione.
Hermy one.
Hermione, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hermione.
Like one of my best friends, one time wanted to introduce me to this new band he had just heard called Evanescene.
Evanescene. Hold on. Let's see if I can write that down. Evanescence?
Evanescence.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. All right.
No, it's Evanescene.
Yeah.
That works for me, dude. They will always be Evanescene in my heart when they bring me to life.
I was trying to remember what their one song was that I know. That's the
They
one.
had a couple. That's the only one I remember, but they
Yeah.
had a couple. Dude, you may not know them, but the goth kids love them some Evanescence.
They love Evanescene.
They love the Evanescene. So a lot of my last trip is not really smoking related, but I did get one picture I wanted to share. We went to Brooklyn to see Manowar, which is not weed related, but metal. And coming back from Brooklyn, I made my ever patient, loving wife go through Stamford, Connecticut. And the wrestling fans among you may hear Stamford, Connecticut and say Stamford, Connecticut and think of the WWE because that's where the headquarters is. And we did go to the new headquarters. It was closed, but I got a picture out in front of the new headquarters where they have this giant belt. It's pretty awesome. Uh, but we also went to the old Titan Towers building, which is no longer occupied. But for old school WWE fans, this is like a pilgrimage. Titan Towers was this legendary place. And so, of course, I had to get a pic smoking weed at Titan Towers. And if you look real close,
I recognize that building from the old commercials.
you can see where the big WW logo used to be. Right there in the middle. At the top.
On the building itself?
That top black area up there?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I actually can see it. Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Sort of the right taking up two of the windows. Yeah, I see it.
So yeah, smoking a joint. It's the Titan Towers building.
Not the most illegal thing to happen at that building.
Yeah, it's Connecticut too, you know. I think everything's legal in Connecticut. Connecticut, in my experience, is one big traffic jam.
Yeah.
Like the entire state is just one big traffic jam.
They just get one road in, one road out, that type of thing.
It's weird, and it's I don't know. Parts of it looked really quaint, and then parts of it looked like, you know, hey, I bet a bunch of rich people from New York live here. Most of it looked like that. But I digress.
You do.
We were talking
You've been known
about
to do that. We were talking about J-Men Forever. But we actually weren't yet, but I think we were heading there.
J-Men Forever. So one of the more, I don't know, I think it's one of the more obscure uh, stoner films.
It's certainly one that I had never heard of.
Definitely stoners of a time knew of it. Now, on its initial release, it really didn't get a lot of attention. It was not very famous. Uh, but then Night Flight got a hold of it. And if you were born after a certain time, you may not remember Night Flight. You may have heard of it. But Night Flight was really back in the days of early basic cable days where we still didn't have a whole lot of channels. You had maybe now 20 channels to choose from, a couple of super stations. And one of them was the USA Network. And USA Network tried uh, an interesting Friday night block of entertainment, I guess we could call it, because they did all sorts of things. They had cartoons, music videos. It was a really early pre MTV place to see music videos, and some underground or counterculture cinema that they would show. And it was pretty much targeted to stoners. You're home on Friday night, you're high, watch this. And so they started showing J-Men Forever periodically, and it really did get kind of an audience there where people became interested in it. But then, of course, over the years, it got lost again. You can find it. There was at least one boutique label that released it on DVD, which is what this is from. And I forget the name of the label, but I have it right here. It's actually called Cult DVD was the label. And I have my physical copy of it, of course. Uh, so I guess you had never seen Night Flight.
I had never seen Night Flight, and I was vaguely familiar with Night Flight because I was a big fan of USA Up All Night back in the day. And USA Up All Night was what Night Flight kind of, you were telling me earlier, evolved into.
Yeah,
So,
Up All Night was the
yeah.
successor to Night Flight. For kids maybe who don't remember that, they would show movies, just movies, but in between, before and in between, and sometimes interrupting during the movie, if I remember right, you
Yes.
would get little skits and sketches from, what's her name, Rhonda Shear
Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried.
and
There might have
Gilbert
been someone else
Gottfried.
at
Yeah,
some point, but those are who I remember.
that was one of my first heavy exposures to Gilbert Gottfried, who I thought was hilarious. And Rhonda was a bit of eye candy and titillation
She was lovely.
for late adolescent and early adult boys. Definitely a target audience there. It was her little on USA Up
Yes.
All Night. Double entendre intended. But yeah, what this stopped in 86, did you say?
So it looks like it originally aired on the USA Network from 81 to 88.
81 to 88.
Yeah, and then it did move to syndication and aired until 1996. But I get the feeling that, like, did you even? I think that for
Nobody
a lot
knew
of
it was
people, it
there.
ended right.
Yeah, it had outlived its
Mhm.
glory years, like a lot of things do.
Yeah, back then when things went from, it wasn't that uncommon for things to go from one of those cable stations to syndication, but it was pretty uncommon for the viewership to follow to syndication. Can't
So
think of
we
an example, but it happened.
then VHS came along in the late 80s. I know it's hard even for some people to remember this, but there was a time when we didn't have VHS at all, and then there was a time when only people with a lot of money to throw away had a VHS player, and there were no blank tapes at that point even.
Right.
But then that happened, and so you would get these rips of things, and we had a VHS copy. Somebody had managed to record J-Men Forever. And we dubbed that and we passed it around from friend to friend. We had one friend who hated it. So we actually created an intro for the movie that said it was presented by him. Although we had made up an alter ego for him. His name was Bob, I think, and we called him the Bob One, which then turned into, for this movie, the Bob One Shree Hashish. And so when I would watch this, there would be a little vanity screen at the beginning that said it was a Bob One Shree Hashish production. And then you would get the movie with the commercials. I wish I still had that tape. That would be so much fun, but I wore it out. And then there were many years I did not have access to it.
Then DVD.
DVD did their release.
It was released on November 19th, 2002 by Cult DVD. I think you already said that, but Cult DVD is the.
I did not say
Yeah.
the year, so thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. And
Uh,
that seems like it was the only release that it's gotten.
now, where did this come from? So a little more history, and then we'll get into the movie. This was done by the two guys at the bottom on the picture here are Proctor and Bergman, who were the main creative force behind an old comedy troupe called the Firesign Theater. And they went even further back. They started in the late days of radio, and then they started recording comedy albums, like not quite sketch comedy albums, because they would be a little more surreal and oftentimes trying to create one long story. It was never my thing. I tried multiple times to get into Firesign Theater, and I was much more the National Lampoon and their radio show and albums were more my thing, which were early Bill Murray and John Belushi. Bill Murray's brother was big into the National Lampoon years. But Firesign Theater was this other troupe. Again, they never really got to me, but Proctor and Bergman then made this movie later, which they primarily wrote, and for all practical purposes, they're the only two real people in it. They do have some voice talent, which we'll see as let's go ahead and start the movie. You read? Was there anything you wanted to say before we got started?
I'm ready to dive in.
So here we go. I have no idea who these guys are and who really cares. You may have noticed the logo did have a joint in it, so you know right away what you're getting into. Although, oddly enough, it takes a while for the weed to show up.
I was gonna say how I feel like weed doesn't show up until maybe the last what do you say, 20 minutes of the movie?
Yeah, 25% maybe. So this is Proctor and Bergman. They're the main J-Men, and then you have all the heroes from a bunch of the old Republic serials.
They did a really good job.
This was even before my time. Back in the 40s and 50s, when you went to the movie theater, they would show an episode, basically a TV show, except you could only see it at the theater. And there would be one episode a week. It would usually end on a cliffhanger. I'm going to pause it here. Would usually end on a cliffhanger. So you'd want to come see the movie next week. Even if you didn't want to see the movie, you would want to come see the next episode of the serial. And so Republic Pictures did a bunch of these. You may have noticed a little earlier, Captain America was one of them. It was a serial back way long ago. And then there was, I had a list, and of course I don't have it handy, of the ones that were in here. But here's where they did the most clever thing. So now you have the villains from 4 or 5 of these serials all of whom are presented as the one villain of this movie, the lightning bug. And in an early scene, they explain, he says, we're going to go to Earth, bring all my disguises.
Yes.
So now they can use the same voice actor to be the lightning bug and have him represented by all the characters from these different serials fighting the J-Men, who are actually the heroes of the serials. And they've tied this into one movie, taking these clips, overdubbing them with new dialogue, and trying to make a semi-coherent single story out of it.
Which was basically, this was I took a TV production class in high school, and I mean this is basically what we used to do back then. It was take like just things, make a little pastiche of just various things, link them together, and then, like you said, make it all one story. Which is like Ed Wood, famous filmmaker, known for being one of the worst filmmakers ever. He really loved stock footage, and would like compose whole movies of just sort of stock footage that he found. And this
Indeed.
reminded me a lot of that.
These guys, however, I have to say, I took a class once. I was looking at career change, and I was going to write dub dialogue
Yeah.
for foreign movies to be translated. And the class I took was from one of the experts in the field who was very into matching the mouth movements to the new dialogue as much as possible, trying to get a very tight lip sync. These guys did an excellent lip sync while at the same time turning it into almost a nonstop series of incredible puns.
Right.
And sometimes not so incredible puns, which might be better. And the main voice actor here doing the lightning bug, as we get ready to start again, is Machine Gun Kelly, not the one you're thinking of, not the skinny white rapper.
No, I was going to tell people it was that guy.
But no, this is Machine Gun Kelly. He's actually still on the radio in a couple of syndicated markets. But back in the late 70s, early 80s, he was a very huge presence in Los Angeles as one of the main radio disc jockeys.
Just in case anyone under the age of, we'll say 30, happens upon this video, radio jockeys used to be a big deal. I know that's hard to imagine, but that was...
We didn't have Spotify.
Well,
so if you didn't have your own music in the car, you listened to the radio. And a good disc jockey could make or break a station.
Absolutely.
Because you wanted somebody to talk in between the songs, you wanted somebody to sell you things. Maybe drop in the news every once in a while.
On the threes.
But Machine Gun Kelly had an incredible voice for this character. So the story, as we get started, it starts with the lightning bug has planted a bug, a technology bug, right, in a record executive's house. And the record executives at the time are making what they call schmaltzy music. It's very square. And the lightning bug informs this guy of his plan to take over the world with the power of rock and roll. And so he blows the guy's warehouse up with all the polka and waltz and schmaltz music. Boys in the band are ready to blow. And then he convinces the record executive to kill himself. This is the record executive. So we've blown up the records. Hypnotic Beast is being broadcast. It's called rock and roll. Now I command you to waltz over to the window. And of course, we're missing some of the dialogue here, but
and this was tapping into the rock and roll hysteria at the time that the movie was set during, right?
So here's the lightning bug talking to another record executive, informing him he's actually on the moon. You're gonna make my music go #1
The bugs
with
look
a
like
bullet.
bugs.
Square hair. And again, these are all from serials, but of course, this is just all done with voiceover because nobody's talking here. But it's done in Machine Gun Kelly's voice. Very deep, kind of sexy. Don't hit the brakes because they don't work.
I feel like I'm gonna pick up on a lot of the puns that I missed. The moon. Just in case, they show that. Someone thinks it's Uranus.
And it's funny because this is actually a total ripoff of Flash Gordon. It is not Flash Gordon, but it's a total ripoff of Flash Gordon.
Wait, so the Republic serials, this was not from the Flash Gordon serial?
This was not from the Flash Gordon serial because that was not Republic.
Oh.
This was Republic's ripoff of Flash Gordon. So that kind of stuff has been going on for decades. Yeah, bring me all my disguises. You heard me. All of them. So now the next phase, they've kidnapped, well, not kidnapped, they've recruited a bunch of guys who are going to be willing slaves. And you know that because when he opens the back door, the thug says, "Come on out, willing slaves." And they're going to retrain these guys to be DJs.
I think the rip-off of Flash Gordon was something called Undersea Kingdom.
Maybe, but I feel like it was. Let me pull up my list. Sorry, folks, I have the ADD, so while I am always prepared, I am never prepared. Both at the same time. I think that was possibly Radar Men from the Moon. I know one of the things we'll see later is Radar Men from the Moon. But he's going to take these guys to the moon to work on his pirate broadcasting station.
Yeah, I love that when all these serials were made, no one knew what was on the moon. I mean, half the people watching this, they thought that there were people living on the moon.
All the coffee and cigarettes you can drink. I'm going to teach you to talk like me. Real sexy.
And what does the J stand for?
They never say.
Okay, I thought I missed something.
I'm pretty sure it's joint, but we're not going to talk about that out loud until the end of the movie. So.
Right.
But they're just the J Men has a pun on the G Men.
Right.
So again, this is the only actual footage that they had to shoot for the movie were these little interstitial scenes every once in a while with just the two of them.
And were they all in this office? I can't remember.
Yes. They had one set.
Probably filmed all their scenes basically in one shot.
So here, this is now the Lone Star, is his name in the actual movie, but he is Captain America. But he's singing his theme song as he rides across here. I'm a super copper on a super chopper, and there's no job too dangerous or too small for me.
Which one's cufflinks and which one's armhole?
We don't know. I do. Under her breath, she says, there must have been a sale on those suits.
Yeah.
So they've intercepted a record and they're listening to it. And it is, in fact, that dreaded rock and roll.
Boo.
Except this is more sensual, kind of an R&B vibe. I'm not sure where this one was from. A lot of the music in the movie is actually really good. The opening scene is using Get Up and Enjoy Yourself by Head East. It was a band I really dug back in the day. Budgie appears in this movie a couple times. The music of Budgie, who were a Canadian, uh, mainly hard rock, but they had like a tinge of prog in there, without a lot of keyboards. Big fan of Budgie back in the day. So now Admiral Ballsy is going to demonstrate the power of rock and roll to some government officials to get them concerned that we need to do something about this threat by playing some rock and roll at a flask of his mother's milk. Because this music could turn our brains, like this milk, into cheese.
Oh my God.
But it went worse. So now the music is actually causing buildings to fall and towers to topple. We're back to our schmaltzy music and a schmaltzy DJ, Mr. Prissy Fay. But of course, the lightning bug is going to cut in. He's taking over the airwaves. And it's hard to pick up on this watching the slides, but so much of it is dad jokes and puns. And I can get, for some people, that can be a bit of a turnoff, but it's almost, there's that surreal element of the longer it goes on, the funnier it gets.
And they were. I assume that like all these serials, I don't know. Have you ever seen any of the original serials that they're using here?
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
Okay, I haven't, but I'm like assuming that they're all kind of just full of these puns and dad jokes. That was something of the time. Is that right, or?
Not as much as you might think.
Oh, okay.
Not as much as you might think.
This guy looks like Skeletor.
He does.
His costume.
But you know who he also, and now I almost feel like I need to track it down. There's a couple of shots of him, and then I saw some like promotional materials for one of the serials, and it really looks like the Misfits logo.
I thought, yes, especially the picture that's on the DVD box.
Yeah,
When we were the whole time that I was looking at that, I was like, that looks like the Misfits.
Yeah,
right there.
top
Yeah.
left there. It's so much.
Yeah.
So much like. Which Glenn would have been a fan of those kind of things.
Yeah.
He definitely would have been aware of it.
Yeah, he's probably seen this movie. I mean, they were already.
So another part of the Lightning Bug's plan is transistor radios. Because now we can get the music to more people with transistors. A transistor, mister.
This was back when Asian actors didn't get work. I think.
Exactly, yeah. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of yellow face.
Yeah.
But, it was in the 40s. What are you going to do?
Right.
You also get a stereotypical accent here. But it was in the 70s. What are you going to do? There was a time when even progressive comedians would do that sort of thing because we just weren't as advanced as we may have become later. Somehow, however, the stereotypical German accents are probably still going to play well. I don't know why you can do German accents and it's not offensive, but some of the
I
other
think
ones are.
I think it's okay to make fun of the Reich forever. I think that was the deal that happened when they lost World War II.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I wouldn't hesitate.
Number 2 tube. That's what I call my colon. That was a joke for the. That was a J-Men Forever joke.
It totally fit. It totally fit. I could hear the lightning bug saying it.
But yes.
The Germans wound up on the wrong coast, so now they're going to blast their way through. Thankfully, they don't go anywhere with that. It's a one-off.
Yeah, the Germans are never seen again, are they?
No, the voice actor that does this guy is also hilarious. And I'm not even going to try to imitate him. But he does a voice that I almost have to, but I can't. You just can't help but laugh at him. It's so funny. The government is very incompetent. They think that rock and roll is some sort of a code, and they're trying to decode it. I got a do run here. What do you think that is? Ka for California. La for California.
We are overwhelmingly overconfident.
The president is assuring the lightning bug that they're going to come after him because now they have a rock and roll detector that can track him down. This is the rock and roll detector, and it is sensing some rock and roll. A little more head east, in fact, if I remember correctly.
We haven't seen any of the death scenes yet, have we?
No, those all happen near the end. So,
Well,
here's the lightning bug. He's lured them here with his rock and roll. And now he's going to flood them like rats.
Where not? Yeah, this is where this one dies. So there's no way to outrun this. They're jumping to their death.
Water came spurting out of the phone.
When we watched this the first time, I didn't even realize that this stuff was being filmed. Like, I just thought that it was all from serials. I really didn't realize that any of it was new.
They did a nice job of blending it.
Yeah. They used the same crappy film stock.
He gets a phone call, but it was a ruse, and he's trapped.
Yep, and the spiked wall
is moving towards him.
A common trope that they used in the first Star Wars movie, with the walls closing in. That was a childhood fear of mine. I always thought that at some point I was going to be in a room and the walls were going to start closing in.
I still worry about it sometimes.
Yeah, you should. You never know.
I'm also very disappointed that quicksand has rarely been a factor in my life, and I felt like it would be.
I did too. I thought quicksand was going to be a thing. I thought whirlpools were going to be an issue that I'd have to deal with at some point. What else? I definitely thought that I would have to avoid lightning a lot more. Like, I definitely thought at least once I would be struck by lightning while in a car and that I couldn't touch any metal.
Okay, so now we have the J-Man that even the other J-Men are worried about, the Caped Madman, and you will see some racist things on the screen here because he is very much racist. Like the Caped Madman was Homelander 50 years earlier.
Was his racism a problem at the time?
Well, for this movie, no. I mean, that was the trope. He is a racist. Like, not the original Serial. I'm just saying the
Oh, okay.
character
All
here
right, gotcha.
is a racist, and the other J-Men think he's a little nuts.
Right.
And of course, they're probably racist too, but they wouldn't say it out loud like he does. Now, this is the old Shazam Serial. You know, where Billy Batson says Shazam and he blows up. This was the original Shazam Serial.
And this was the wizard that gave him his powers?
Yes,
Wow.
the wizard Shazam.
Yeah.
There's harm to be done. So he tells him when he says his name, Shaboom, he will become powerful with the vices of a J-Man. S for sneaky, O for obnoxious, and so forth.
Obnoxious is on there twice. That's extra obnoxious. Shaboom, shaboom, yada da 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 da.
These guys are bringing illegal music to Detroit. They see the Cape Madman coming, and they're gonna drop this engine block on him.
And it succeeds, yeah? Did they crush him here?
He's the Cape Madman. He picks it up and throws it at them.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of my favorite scenes because he throws it
Oh, right.
and hits this guy in the head. You sadistic bastard! You crushed my skull. That stuck with me for years.
You discovered this movie before you discovered weed then? Or no?
It was right about the same time. No, I
Wow.
would definitely get high and watch Night Flight. Like I was the target audience because
Yeah.
I was young, I was high, and I didn't have a lot of money to go out.
And where would you have even gone that was better than this?
Yeah, I lived in small town West Texas. It was
Right, exactly.
go to the river and drink beer, go to the lake and drink beer, drive up and down the fucking road, up and down the fucking main road of town, because for some reason that was fun.
While drinking beer.
If you could get it, you know, we were all underage, so
Yeah.
yeah, drinking beer on the drag was risky. The cops would get you. So you go to the lake to drink beer. So now the lightning bug has his little scorpion thing is a turntable that plays really loud rock and roll, so loud that it melts steel or rock.
The sound of the music.
Yes. The sound of the music melts stone.
Yeah. And I think that's what parents were afraid of back in the day, too. Keep that rock and roll out of my house or you'll melt the foundation.
You lousy hood! As he pulls the hood off. Another great little dad joke. Haha, it's not really him, it's a speaker. And now
Uncle
And
Melty. Uncle
this
Melty.
is
Is that an Uncle Melty joke? Uncle Melty,
it
right?
actually was, yes. So these guys were already kind of old themselves.
Hmm.
This may have been what originally sold me on the movie, honestly, though, is this scene has my favorite Budgie song in it, Melt the Ice Away. And the combination of all this just made my little, I don't know, 17, 18-year-old heart a flutter. And then I realized years later, hardly anybody knows who Budgie is, but that makes it a good measuring stick.
I don't know who Budgie is.
You should. We'll have to get you into some 70s rock. Actually, the album, one of my favorite albums of Budgie is itself a pun. If I were Britannia, I'd waive the rules.
How are you spelling Budgie?
B
None
U
of
D
these.
G I E, like the bird.
There's Budgie. They're a Welsh heavy metal band from Cardiff. Okay.
Did you get it? If I were Britannia, I'd waive the rules.
If I were Britannia, waive the rules. I don't get it.
One of the English slogans is there's actually a song. Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves.
Oh, is that the words to that song? I mean, I know the
Yes.
song that you were just singing. but I
Britannia
didn't-
rule the waves.
Uh,
If I were Britannia, I'd waive the rules.
okay.
I love a good pun,
Yeah.
and I love a bad pun even more. Sombra. You can eat worms and die. I think that's still a good curse.
Yeah. If somebody said you can eat worms and die, sister, to me, I'd be afraid. I don't want to eat worms or die. I have to turn the heat on because it's just dropped in temperature here 40 degrees today. I had the air conditioner on earlier.
Yeah, I've got 8 inches of snow in my yard.
Yeah. Well, at least it's consistent out there.
And here we have my favorite agent, Sleeve Coat. You know, so much of this is dated. There's a lot of these jokes. I don't know how much longer people are going to get. Like Muzak. Does anybody today even know what Muzak was?
I think so. They still play it on elevators.
Do we still have
presumably.
Muzak?
Maybe, I say that. I don't know.
I don't know
I
if
guess
it's
I don't
still
know.
around.
Yeah,
So-
because I'm thinking.
but-
I mean, the bathrooms at my office they play regular music. The elevators that I'm in don't play music. But yeah, Muzak was just really, really, really cheesy versions, not like slow sort of versions of popular music, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, but it was literally scientifically designed to induce certain moods. Like they brought in industrial psychologists to design different stations that at certain frequencies would make you comfortable or make you relax or literally put you in some, like in a store they would have a channel that would induce you to spend more time shopping and perhaps buying things.
Right.
And an elevator is designed to calm you and make you more relaxed. So they had music to make you linger, music to make you move. But yes, it's all very bland and somewhat generic and da, 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 da. And of course it's all remade songs so that they don't have to pay exorbitant music rights, and they can then sell this service that they would stream before streaming existed.
So Muzak was a company. It was a company that
Yes.
made all of these. Technically, the company Muzak no longer exists. It was purchased by Mood Media in 2011. However, Muzak's changes from soothing instrumental background tracks to customized soundscapes lives on, and so the legacy of Muzak continues to influence branded sounds.
And
So
what was the name of that company that bought them?
Mood Media,
There you go.
right?
Moods. Oh, I love this guy. And yes, there is a reference in the movie to his Darth Vader helmet. I love the little lackey, I guess.
He
So,
looks like he probably played it like Igor at
yeah.
some point in a Frankenstein serial. He says that look.
This cereal is the Fighting Devil Dogs.
That helmet looked like Boba Fett to me more than Darth Vader.
But it
But
was
either
a
way, it
funnier
had a
joke.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Nobody at the time knew who Boba Fett was.
No.
Music is killing me.
General Electric.
The puns just keep coming.
Yeah.
Keep your shirt on, sleeve. So yeah, Muzak has been destroyed. These guys are having the most boring conversation ever. But they start falling asleep. And one of the guys even thinks it's because of the bullshit conversation. But no, they've been drugged.
And I still plan to rewatch this a couple of times because I felt like I was almost too high when we watched it before. So if anybody's interested in watching this on your own, I'm not telling anybody how to live their lives, but if you watch it really high, it'll be a scene, man. Because I really didn't know what I was watching. I laughed a lot.
I think it for me definitely. It's again one of those that the more I watch it,
Yeah.
the more I like it, and you start anticipating the jokes, and then you hear things you didn't hear the first time.
And I could see this being something that you and your friends that you watched this with back then probably quoted a lot to each other.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. You start quoting it.
Yeah.
It definitely, I think, also it benefits from a group watch.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's a fun movie to riff with your friends. This guy is not Gene Simmons, but oh my God, does he look like Gene Simmons?
And it might have been Gene Simmons' father. And I'm not entirely sure that Gene Simmons isn't a vampire.
You know, I wouldn't argue with you on that one then.
Yeah.
Definitely get the evil part down.
And the just sucking the life out of,
Hash
out
oil.
of others.
Hash oil. We finally have our weed connection. The bug is into drugs, and we're not just going to use rock and roll now. We're going to use rock and roll and weed, and we're getting some hash oil. We have different Germans now. We were here getting stoned, and we heard the whole thing.
Right. So this was the first moment of weed. And how far into this are we? About
Oh, we're
halfway.
about halfway. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're about halfway.
They had to hide the weed deep into the movie. And even though we're calling this movie J-Men Forever, it was also called. It had a couple of different names, didn't it?
One other name, IMDb has it as The Day the Earth Got Stoned, but
Okay,
I
and
have
then
never heard that reference before.
the original title was The Secret World War.
Yes, that was, I believe, the production title.
But you've never seen it called The Day the Earth Got Stoned?
Never except on IMDb. I don't
Huh.
know where that came from.
Maybe that's what it's called in other countries. Or maybe they tried to rebrand it as that. I don't know. Or maybe IMDb is just wrong.
But I feel like they shot it as the Secret War, and then I think they realized rather quickly. This is just my conjecture, but I feel like they would realize that doesn't attract a crowd, but J-Men Forever does kind of spark a uh, spark, if you will, uh, the crowd that you might be targeting for a movie like this.
Mm-hmm. Because what does it mean?
Well, I mean, even back then we would talk about rolling a J.
Right.
So immediately, J-Ben, is this about weed?
Yeah.
And while maybe it's not about weed, it is definitely targeted to the stoner mind.
And it becomes about weed, sort of.
And or a certain level of nerd who delights in puns.
Mm.
Because really, the crowd of friends that I watched this with the most, I was the only one who smoked.
Really.
Yeah. And I wasn't smoking a lot at the point I was hanging out with them. But, that's that whole other story.
So would you guys drink while you watched this?
There were a few beers kicked down. Yeah.
I feel like this is a good companion film to Doctor Strangelove.
I could see that.
Yeah, the black and white, but it's not just the black and white. It's the don't ask me to unpack it.
The spy swatter that you see here, the guy with the leather helmet, was from a series called Spy Smasher. So they didn't even change his name that much.
Radar Men from the Moon. Is that what you said? That you thought the Flash Gordon thing was?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that is.
I
Correct.
think that's from Radar Men from the Moon, which is going to make a different appearance very, very soon, with the actual biggest celebrity that is actually in this movie, who they make a joke about, and I don't want to spoil it until we get there who it is. So as you can see, the university is aware that drugs are becoming a problem, and they're not letting dope peddlers in anymore. Secret, this little Italian guy with the bird is really a dope peddler. And he gets his bird to knock the policeman out.
That bird's dead now.
And now we're going to go sell marijuana to the college kids. J-Man has a joint. He's not sure what it is, so he's talking to this tobacconist
Hashish?
who sniffs it and then sneezes hashish. She picks up the florist might be dangerous because there's potted plants in the window. But he was a dope dealer, and he kidnapped the cop. He got the drop on her.
Oh, somebody's in danger here. Which one is this?
It's the girl. She's like, but I'll tell you everything you want to know. But they dropped the guillotine anyway.
No way you can get out of that.
Go back to Radar Men from the Moon or the Lightning Bug. Sending a shipment down from the moon. And this might be the second most well-known of the serials, perhaps. This is from Zombies from the Stratosphere, which was a sequel to Captain Cody, but then they changed the names of the characters to try to make it its own thing. Still using all the footage from the previous serial, which was Commando Cody.
And that's going to be what the Rocketeer was based off of.
Yeah, this is what the Rocketeer, or it was a ripoff of the Rocketeer. I don't remember the years there, so it very well may be a ripoff of the Rocketeer, or it could be the other way around. I don't know, but yeah, Commando Cody, which then turned into the second series, turned into a separate thing called Radar Men from the Moon, and they hired a young actor for his only his second acting gig to be in this little serial in 1952, and we should get a shot of him in a few minutes.
This the logical one.
Shh.
Sorry.
And I don't know, this guy really looks like John Wayne.
Do we know that it's not?
I don't know that it's not, but there's also no reference that it's him. And I've never seen it referenced, but I honestly also, I haven't dug into it to see if maybe it could be.
What serial do you think that was?
I don't know. Probably the Fighting Devil Dogs, if I had to guess. But I am by no means an expert on Republic serials. I was unable to find how they got access to the Republic serials. Like, did they have to pay something for this, or
I think those are all public domain.
were they public domain? Because this was the 70s, so
70s was a lawless time.
Commando Cody would have only been a little over 20 years old. So I don't know how they pulled that off. But if they were doing this under a studio's guys and the studio owned all those, you could get away with that. That's how I don't know if you ever saw C-Lab 2021.
Mm-hmm.
They use a lot of footage from various cartoons that the parent company of the Cartoon Network inherited. So they're just like, we got all this library, do what you want with it.
It looks like they were not public domain yet, but there is a law. You're allowed to use things for various reasons. Parody. I think there's a parody law, so maybe it fell under that. I don't know. Because it had to have been somewhat above board, or else Night Flight wouldn't have picked it up and run the risk of getting shut down. But also, they did specifically use the Republic cereals and not any cereals made by any other company.
I mean, right.
So
They're
maybe-
all
right.
from the same studio, which
Right.
makes me think there's probably some sort of backdoor relationship there.
Yeah, John Wayne was in Republic stuff.
Okay, so that may actually, and I may be wrong then about our most famous celebrity, although I think probably to our crowd,
I was gonna say this guy's more famous to me than John Wayne.
yeah. Depending on, I guess, your target audience. John Wayne was kind of a big deal.
He was, but I think that he's also somebody who's not necessarily. I think if you were to poll Gen Z, that they
His
may not
star
be able
has
to tell
dimmed.
John Wayne from Clint Eastwood. Yeah.
Yeah, his star has dimmed.
Whereas the other guy has one notable role in particular that I think will withstand the test of time for.
He also never did
some
anything in
amount.
public that made you go, "Oh man, why do you have to be such an asshole?"
Was John Wayne a huge asshole? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He was not a. He no, I shouldn't say that. He was not a huge asshole. Uh, except in that some of his views might have been a little racist, uh, or a lot, perhaps, a lot racist. Uh, he he was by no means a progressive,
Right.
and might have threatened to punch out a Native American woman at the Oscars.
So the
So
studio helped launch the career of the legendary John Wayne, who made 33 films for the company, including such notable
damn,
efforts as Sands of Iwo Jima, Quiet Man.
was he in the Fighting Devil Dogs?
He was in something called The Fighting Seabees.
I've actually seen the Fighting Seabees. That was a movie, not a serial. But yeah, they did movies too. So cool. They could have
Yeah, could have been him.
lifted some of that. The lightning bug has now mentally enslaved one of the leaders of the J-Men. And he's going to send a robot to attack the other J-Men. Oh, but they're confronting him now. See, that's Admiral Ballsy. The lightning bug has mental control of him. They're realizing that he's been compromised. But he told the lightning bug about the J-Men's plan to blow him up with a secret bomb. So this robot that nobody sees in the corner is now going to kill the J-Men and prevent them from finishing the rocket, which part of it is in the room. But I'm getting attacked by a coffee machine. This coffee's too strong. Which is a joke I always forget about. So every time I see it, it makes me laugh like it's the first time.
I loved this robot attack.
Nobody loves a metal man.
Did the robot kill the J-Man?
No, the J-Men killed the robot.
Okay.
And now they have the J-Men secret weapon, the Dildinator.
Yes.
So you get a couple of nice little dildo jokes. Rocket Shock is back. Naughty, naughty, bad polluter, bring you down with my ray shooter. And okay, get ready. Here we go. He has shot down the rocket from the moon.
And
Who comes outside? But Leonard Nimoy.
I know it's hard to recognize him without his Spock ears. I never would have recognized him if you didn't point him out. Between the Spock ears and the youth on his face.
But they dropped that in as a line wait, was it that Leonard Nimoy? I don't know. I didn't see his ears.
Was that a line in the movie?
Yes. That is a line in the movie.
Yeah, that was very high.
That's why you got to watch it a couple times.
Yeah. There's a lot to take in. This is one of those, there's a gag a minute. Not even, every 10 seconds there's a gag. I bet they had a lot of fun making this. And even though you did it the opposite of endorse the what's it called?
Fireside Theater.
Fireside Theater. I'm curious to know what else they
a
got
lot of
into.
people love it. Again, it's just me. A lot of people love it. They were very popular. Their records sold a lot of stuff. I listened to a couple of them again just a few weeks ago, though, to kind of like, am I missing something? Let me try again. And it was funny, and I see the humor, but I was like, okay, I don't want to hear this though. Like, I listened to 3 albums, and then I listened to a couple old Cheech and Chong albums, and laughed my ass off. So different taste, man. We all like something different, and it's good. But no, they were quite popular. A lot of people really dig them. You might listen to them. Give them a shot.
Oh, I'll check them out. I miss comedy albums.
I don't have all of them, but there's a big selection on the Plex.
Nice. Of comedy albums or of Fireside Theater specifically?
Fireside Theater specifically.
Nice.
There's quite a few comedy albums too, though. I think all of Carlin is there. Maybe Pryor, I don't remember. Smothers Brothers, Cosby, Cheech and Chong. Steve Martin. I really dig comedy albums.
I do too. And Cosby was my first foray into the comedy albums, and I friggin' loved Cosby when I was a kid for all the reasons. And I haven't. It's been tough. I haven't gone back. I haven't listened to a Cosby album since,
Yeah,
we learned
I do.
who he really
I
was.
know exactly. I have them all on vinyl.
Yeah.
I have every one of them on vinyl, and I just can't bring them out.
No, and I think I'll get to a point where I can. I think
But
I
God,
will.
I can still listen to the Smothers Brothers any day.
Oh well, sure. They didn't do what he did.
The Smothers Brothers are still funny, though. They're so funny.
Mhm.
But yeah, check out Firesign. You might dig it.
And Carlin, who you mentioned, Carlin's.
Yes,
I'm
Carlin
sure that they're
is all good. You can't have enough.
No. Man, if he had lived to be around now, though, I think that this world would have changed him. That's a whole other topic. But I think he would have been. I think he, yeah. I think he might have gone dark.
Oh, he would have.
Because he was raging against cancel culture before that was a word.
and he's got some points. He didn't have some points. It's all that's another conversation.
Exactly.
So we're nearing the final battle, and the bug is turning everything up to 100. We're
Yep.
back. We're
Cities
back
are
to
being
one of my
destroyed.
favorite Hetty songs. This is
That's the Statue of Liberty being destroyed right now. There's
right.
tidal waves destroying New York City. Amazing special effects.
From the Republic serials.
Yeah. That
They
sounded
did.
like I was being ironic when I said amazing special effects, but I love the I love
It's
the effects
bottle
for what
work.
they were.
It's practical effects. Yeah.
I get a kick out of it. I think it's great.
Is it a little dated? Sure, but it's more fun to me than the bullshit CGI that Roland
Yeah.
Emmerich did.
Well, because there's something there. With practical effects, you're seeing something.
This is what I call getting stoned.
What's happening there?
The
New York still?
moon. The moon is also getting destroyed. See, the J-Men are fighting back, and
Right.
they have blown up his secret base on the moon, taking the lightning bug and all his henchmen with it. So, did a lot of people die? Yeah. But did we save the world? Yeah. But look at all the men we lost. Every one of these guys died. We saw
I
it
know.
happen.
We did. Or did we, though? This was my
But then
favorite
you
part.
remember that these were all the Republic serials, which
That's right.
every episode there was a cliffhanger where the guy would get killed.
Or
And then
very
the next
often they hang off
episode,
a cliff.
yeah, the next episode, it was revealed
Yep.
that he had gotten out.
At the last moment, they
I
all
used my
escaped.
gun to create a barrier that breaks down the door.
And this is why it was called J-Men Forever.
Yeah.
I think, to me, when we watched.
And so now, though, they're lighting up. Because that's what J-Men do. They go with it. And that's what we are going to do. And they light up. And then the Proctor, I think, I don't know which is which, but he takes a hit and says, J-Men. And he passes the joint. And the other guy takes a hit. Forever. Boss. And then we see the rest of the heroes actually get out of their predicaments, and they lived.
And all that they did was use the following week's clips.
Exactly. Oh no, he fell. But yay,
Melon
he
cart.
fell into a laundry truck.
Laundry truck.
Thank you for the subtitles, Fremistan.
Really amazing film. I wish
Proctor and Bergman were the only actual people. All the rest of those actors credited there are voice actors. I'm sure a couple of them had done some other things, but I didn't really dig deep enough on the voice acting. If you're a Tubes fan, there were a couple of Tube songs in there. Billy Preston, another notable musician that's on the soundtrack. Which, again, I think that's something that helps sell that movie.
Mhm.
Is there's some really good music. You almost get the feel of like a proto music video some of the time. The use of the music will be very appropriate to the scene, and almost as if it's the other way around. But I'm high. So I come into this from a place of nostalgia and a place of
Yes.
very much being of the time that this was, popular and written, both. And as I was watching it with you, I couldn't help but think, I'm not sure how this is going to play as a first watch to a later generation, and let's be fair, more mature, because sometimes our taste can change a little bit as we age.
So to be clear, had I discovered this is the type of thing that I spent many hours of my late childhood and early teenage years looking for on late night TV. I used to stay up really late at night and just flip through cable channels looking for things like this, basically. Looking for things that were weird as shit, that just like it was the only way to find these things back then. There was no internet, there was no on demand anything. So you wanted, if the video store was closed and it was late at night, you just had to flip. And there were certain channels. So had I discovered this at a certain age, I would have been fucking obsessed with it. Like it had, so I was able to watch it like that. Like I spent a lot of time looking at it, thinking like, just almost in my head being like 14 again, and imagining that like that it was late at night. Um, the cool thing back then too, though, is that when you discovered weird shit, you knew nothing about it. You didn't have anybody explaining it. You didn't have, so you just found something late at night and just watched it and said, "What was that? Am I ever going to see it again? I'm going to tell people." There was no internet again to look up what this is, so you would just go to school or to work or whatever and be like, "There's a thing. I saw it in the
Yeah,
time."
was it even real?
Yeah, exactly. Um, so so this just felt like that. So I was able, like, I imagined that the people who discovered this that way, the people who just were like night flight devotees or even just casual cable flippers, it must have been one of those weird like things that you would tell 100 people about, and maybe if one of the people that you told knew it, then that person just instantly became your friend because
Yes.
yeah. Um, so obviously, I watched it in 2024. On like, it was a totally different experience. That I watched it. I tried to go in as blind as I could, but I still Googled it ahead of time because I couldn't help myself because we live in a world of instant gratification. Uh, but I didn't read much about it, and I was like, I definitely still had, even though I looked it up a little bit. You did a good job of not really revealing anything. So when we were watching it, I still definitely had a few of those moments where my brain was like, what am I seeing? Like I told you, I thought that it was all cobbled together. Like at the time that we watched it, I didn't realize that some of it had been filmed. So now when I go back and I watch it again, knowing that, that'll add like a whole other dimension to it. Because I was, like I said, I was high as always, but more high even when we watched it. And so I was like, just really impressed that they managed to put it all together sequentially. But now that I know that they like not cheated, but sort of built it around some film scenes, that adds a little to it. But yeah, I mean, I love experimental shit. I love all this is to say is that I love experimental shit. I've always loved experimental shit. Um, I wish that I had found it a different way, but I'm still glad that I found it. And I'm thinking of like, who are people in my life that I can show this to? And I don't even know for sure yet because this is not one that like you would just show anybody.
Oh no, no. I yeah, there have been friends in my life who was like, do not, or if you ever made the mistake
Yeah,
of showing it to the wrong person,
right. Then they just think that you're
what the fuck is this?
exactly. There's too much like, but yeah, it's the type of thing. It is like it is one of those things I think that I imagine that back in the day that learning that you would meet someone who knew what this was and that would tell you everything you needed to know about them. And I think that shit like that
You
is
hope.
just super cool.
Or you
Right.
just randomly run into it in the middle of the night. And, what am I watching? I can't look away. Uh, so Devo. I found Devo this way. Uh, I had fallen asleep on the couch high watching Saturday Night Live. And I don't know if it was at the end of Saturday Night Live or if it was a show after Saturday Night Live. I have no idea why this was on TV. But one of Devo's first things they did before they were very popular at all, before anybody knew who they were outside of, like, the college scene in Ohio, they made this short film. You've probably seen it if you're a Devo fan. The story of de-evolution, or the history of de-evolution, and it's this weird little short film where Bougie Boy is running through a wasteland, and he gets to his father, General Boy, uh, who tells him that he has to alert the peoples of the earth about the dangers of de-evolution or something. I don't fully remember it because it's been years since I've seen it. But then Bougie Boy says, "We're all Devo," and then it cuts to a studio scene where the band Devo is performing Jocko Homo, which is like their first big song, but also one of their more oddest of odd ones
Mhm.
that most people still would know if they know who Devo is. Are we not men? We are Devo. With no explanations or anything, and I have no idea who this is. And I'm asleep and I'm high, and I wake up to the opening of that, and it just plays out. What am I watching? Am I awake? Is this a dream? Am I hallucinating? I don't know, but I am fascinated.
Right.
And then I bought the Devo album a few days later.
See, there's I don't want to sound too much like two old men sitting on rocking chairs, but we kind of are. Uh, there's something that like anyone of a certain age will never understand, like because we can just find everything now. So if you hear about something interesting, you can just you go somewhere, somebody tells you about a song or a show or a movie or a this or that or that, you can take your phone out of your pocket and have access to it instantly. There was a time though where like you would come up to me and try to tell me about this Devo thing, and I'd be like, "What the like what?" But I'd never there'd be no chance of me ever experiencing it until many years later when the internet came out.
Well, like you would hopefully you had access to a record store, and you could go in and go, "I heard this thing," and
Right.
there would be this weird person who was obsessed with music that worked at the record store who would know all of this stuff and go, "Oh yeah, that's these guys over here. Let me show you," and might even know some things.
If you
Uh,
were shy like me though, I always I don't know, I never liked asking the record store guy.
oh no, they were scary. They were
They were.
frightening, and
Yes.
they would judge you
Right. Exactly. And I
at the
never
same
wanted to be
time.
judged. And
You
so
know,
I just used to go in and
do
like
you
I
have
still
Devo? Yeah, it's over there, but it sucks.
right.
You don't like that shit, do you?
I when I was young, I was a kid, and the movie Highlander came out, and I saw it on TV or VHS or whatever, and I loved the music in it, and I knew that it was by Queen. So I used to go to the record store and I would look through the Queen albums for the Highlander soundtrack, and I never found it because it doesn't exist. But then one day I said I'm just going to start looking at the back of the albums, and there was one album called It's a Kind of Magic. that Queen released, and that had all the songs from Highlander. And so I was so fucking psyched because I finally had the Highlander soundtrack. But yeah. And I could have, if I had been brave enough to talk to the record store person, then it probably took me like years, at least months. It feels like years. It took me a while though before I found the right album. And had I just asked the record store guy, hey, what's the Queen album that has the music from Highlander on it? He would have answered me immediately and rolled his eyes at me and whatever. But then I would have had it quicker.
But then in college, we got a new record store, a used record store, and it became my home. I made friends with the owner, and,
Yeah.
and I lived in that place, and I would dig through the bins until my hands were just filthy with dust.
Nothing like it. And once you do
Uh.
become friendly with, like, when I got older, I got braver and I did become friendly with the record store people. Once you do, it's awesome. Because then you would just go in without any money. And you would just go in and just talk.
And
God damn it, I miss it.
let's play this. Yeah, let's put this on. Boom.
Yeah.
You could listen to anything you wanted to. It was like having Spotify almost.
It was.
Yeah,
now-
those were the days.
Now I have to go by. I haven't been to the record store here in Austin in years. Now I feel like I gotta do my part and
Go to end of an ear.
swing in. Yeah, that's where I was thinking about.
Faux show.
Oh well.
Well, that was J-Men Forever.
J-Men
And if
Forever.
you're watching this later, leave a comment and make some suggestions of stoner films, weed-related cinema that you might want to see.
Yeah, and we talked about doing Nice Dreams or no, Up in Smoke.
I think, personally, I think if we're going to do any Cheech and Chong, that's where we have to start.
Was that their first?
That was the first.
Okay, well then that's the one. Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to start. So you think Cheech and Chong next?
I think Cheech and Chong next. If we're gonna watch weed movies,
So back
need-
to the classics. Our next episode will be Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. But again, there's a lot of stuff out there. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like us to watch.
please.
Make a suggestion. Maybe you know something I don't. Do you have anything you wanted to say as we shut this place down?
I'm gonna remind everyone to clean their bong water before you do.
And I didn't even have it queued up.
Change your bong
Change
water.
your bong
everyone.
water. Seriously, folks, that shit gets nasty.
No,
Weed tastes better.
and all I have to say is that as long as we can remember our login, someday we won't. But as long as we do, we'll be here next week, same time.
Rock on, friends.
Peace. Have a good night.